Hi, my name is Caitlin Depew. I'm a 19-year-old sophomore at SGR State. Um, I'm doing this for my midterm presentation for Professor Turner's Comp 2 class. Um, basically, my topic is global warming, and I'm pretty passionate about global warming because I feel like if we don't do something about it, we're not going to have a world to live on. And if it doesn't affect us in our lifetime, maybe our children's lifetime or, our grandkids, somewhere along the line, if we don't do something about global warming, it's going to cause very bad consequences for the earth. As I put it, if I believe that if something isn't done about global warming, um, the first of all, the earth is heating up. There's lots of evidence to prove that. Glaciers are melting, which cause nobody's really sure. Nobody can be sure what exactly that's going to cause, but what people think is that it's going to cause the sea level to rise. Um, and then the sea level will rise, and then all the coastal cities will flood, which would really affect the United States. Places like New York, Florida, all of that's going to flood. Um, and then another thing that's going to happen is as the glaciers melt, there's going to be an influx of cold water into the oceans, which will mess up the currents in the oceans, which in return will mess up global weather patterns because a lot of the currents are what makes maybe the shore of England warm because a warm current comes by. The air picks up the warmness. Well, when the cold water is going into those currents, it's going to cause things to start getting colder. Um, and these are all little minute details, but in the long run, all of this is going to change the atmosphere of the earth, and one day it might be uninhabitable. Um, so, basically, what I'm focusing on with global warming is what will happen if we don't do something about global warming, and that's part of it. But my bigger thing, I would say, my hypothesis is like, a lot of people believe that global warming is a hoax, that scientists skew information and evidence to support global warming when it's not really happening. And then other people believe that global warming is a real thing that's really going to affect the earth. And basically, in my essay, I'm trying to prove that global warming is real and that it has lots of negative consequences on the earth. Um, so that's just like my introduction. Um, like I said, my hypothesis is that global warming is real, and that if we don't do something about it, it's going to have many negative consequences on the earth. My target audience is pretty much everybody who lives on Earth, because all of us will be affected if something isn't done about global warming. So, I mean, that could be children, that could be to older people, like the elderly or whatever, because all of us children from the elderly will be affected if global warming, something isn't done about it. And I feel like by proving that global warming is real in my essay, I will be, that will make people feel like they should do something about it. I'm hoping that the audience responds by feeling like global warming is a real problem and that they should do something about it. Start making lifestyle changes. I'm not going to change the world. I wish I could. If I could really have what I wanted, it would be that nations around the world would start making changes to do something about global warming. But that's not going to happen. So I would hope that by starting to target, individuals and people, small people, the little people, they are going to be the ones that end up doing something about it that really makes a difference. So that is who I'm targeting. And pretty much, like I said, anybody from young people to older people, everyone who lives on the earth, I feel like should be my target audience because they'll all be affected by it. So, my 5 quotes, like I decided to just quote my sources. My 5 quotes that I chose to support my hypothesis is, to start out, this is a quote by encyclopedia.com on global warming, which is just basic information, which kind of just gives an idea, which I feel like this source is credible because it's an educational source, so all of it's based on fact. And the quote I chose was, "The overall long-term increase in the retention of the sun is heat around Earth sun's heat around Earth due to blanketing by green. Okay, let me start over. Global warming is the overall long-term increase in the retention of the sun's heat around Earth due to blanketing by greenhouse gases, especially CO2 and methane. Emissions of CO2 have been rising at a speed unprecedented in human history due to accelerated fossil fuel burning that began in the Industrial Revolution. So I chose this quote because, for one, I feel like this shows a lot because global warming really started to pick up in the Industrial Revolution. So it shows that it is a human consequence, something that we did, and therefore something that we could change if we do it fast enough. And this is basically just what global warming is, like a textbook definition of global warming. And so, okay, my next one is by National Geographic News, Than Kerr. Arctic sea ice hits record low, extreme weather to come. As I said before in the beginning of my introduction, as the glaciers start to melt, nobody really knows what the consequences are going to be. So this was somebody who started studying what is going to happen when the glaciers start to melt. And as they were saying, Arctic sea ice is at a record low for all time. And they're wondering, is extreme weather to come? Which is what I said, global weather and patterns are changing. Okay, so climate models used by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, also predict that Arctic summers will be completely free of sea ice in the coming decades if global warming continues unabated. So, if we don't do something about global warming, one day, whether it happens in our lifetime or not, there's not going to be any sea ice. And that, like I said, that could have, nobody really knows what's going to happen because it hasn't happened yet. Everybody just predicts. And so one day, like, our kids, they won't be able to see, like, for example, the polar bears. The polar bears are going to go extinct because they depend on this sea ice. So our kids won't they won't see polar bears. There's going to be a lot of species that go extinct because of this. But on top of that, who knows what kind of world they're going to be living in. Okay, and my next one is by Evans David. Global warming is based on false science, which, as I said, my hypothesis was that I believe global warming is real, but there are people out there that don't believe global warming is real. So this is a quote from somebody who doesn't believe global warming is real, and I just chose this to kind of show what people think that don't believe in it. But I don't completely consider this source credible just because he doesn't really have a lot of fact. Like, he states things, but doesn't have anything to back them up. So this is the quote. He says that scientists keep lowering the temperature increases they expect from 0.30 degrees Celsius per decade in 1990 to 0.20 degrees Celsius per decade in 2001 and now 0.15 degrees Celsius per decade. Yet they have the gall to tell us it's worse than expected. These people are not scientists. They overestimate the temperature increases due to carbon dioxide, selectively deny evidence, and now they conceal the truth. So this guy's pretty biased, but then again, I thought it was a great example of how people feel because a lot of people feel that scientists, it's about half and half, I'd say. A lot of people feel that scientists skew evidence for a number of reasons. One of them being they believe it's like a moneymaker. When companies start switching to go green and stuff, they have to spend a lot of money to do this, so they feel like it's a moneymaker. People go green. Go green products are more expensive. Cars that are green are more expensive, so and then a lot of people also feel that it's a way for politicians to like control us because they manipulate you into believing global warming is real, so you spend this money for like let's say the solar panels on your house to power your house. You spend all this money because the media and our government is telling us, oh, global warming is real because of these scientists, and this guy saying that they do all of this and then it's not true. Okay, so my next one it's just an example of what is happening as the world heats up. And it's from a book by Brosh Gary, Earth Under Fire, How Global Warming is Changing the World. And he says in 2002, the Larsen ice shelf had a portion of it the size of Rhode Island drop off in a 35-day time span, which Rhode Island is one of the smallest states in the United States, but nonetheless, that is a really big piece of ice to be falling off of this ice shelf that's been around for, who even knows how long, hundreds of years, though. So this is a real example of how global warming is affecting us here and now. And I'd also like to throw in there just about the ice shelf, just an interesting fact. Just the other day, because I'm really interested in it, I was watching a video where an ice, a glacier started to fall apart, and for some reason there was like a crowd of people watching it, and all of them were cheering as the ice fell, and it just shows how we don't take global warming serious. We just disregard it, you know? Like, we don't see it as a real threat to our life when there's so much evidence out there that proves that it is. Okay, and my last quote is by Lonnie G. Thompson and Giotto Chua, Climate Change, the Evidence and Our Options. So this is people, you know, that obviously believe that it's real. Okay, and they say many climatologists have spoken out about the dangers of our continued path towards this warming. And there is now a very clear pattern in the scientific evidence documenting that the warming is due largely to human activity. It is already causing important changes in the climate. So, as I was saying in my introduction, I believe global warming is real, and obviously these people do too. And as I said, if we do not change our ways with global warming, if we don't do something, if we can do anything at this point, it's already affecting us, it's already affecting the world we live in, and there are many real consequences to global warming, all backed up by facts, evidence, pictures, things that are happening now, you know, records. I've read a lot on it, and there's big temperature increases, there's a lot of glaciers melting, there's lakes drying up, you know, just so many things that you couldn't even imagine. I hope the audience responds, as I said, by maybe altering their life a little bit, which I know there's nothing big we can do, but, you know, maybe it's going to be one of us little people that pushes the legislation that changes our policies concerning global warming. So I would hope somebody, you know, somebody sees this and really thinks that they can make a difference. From this point, I've researched it a lot, and I have a lot of background knowledge, so I have all my sources together. So really, I just, I need to take more notes, like, to, you know, use my sources effectively, and basically put that all together so that I can have a good, thorough research paper where I've, you know, looked into everything, covered all the aspects that I possibly could, and, have a credible essay to show you guys that global warming is real, that it's a real problem. And about my research topic, my conclusions are that, like I said, global warming is a real problem that is going to affect all of us one day. So something needs to be done about it. And it's not going to be something that one country can do. It's going to have to be something that the whole world works together on. Because, as I said, young people, old people, future generations, our children, they very well might not have an earth to live on if something isn't done. So that is what I think should happen. Thank you guys all for listening. I hope you liked it, and I hope maybe it affects your life in some way.